red lights are on, the lights go out, and the race gets underway with a good start from John Village, a really poor start from Tim Sage in the Mallock, so he's dropped a number of positions as they head off towards the Ritchie's corner. Yeah, something like 5th place. How many of those positions can he get back down into Ritchie's? He's on the inside of a couple, but no, he backs out of it, Marcus. So down in 5th, and he's made his life much harder than perhaps it needed to be.
Yeah, quite remarkable. That's got a Ford, 1-litre Ford engine in it, that particular car, the U2. But there's John Village, who leads the way. It is the Gerald in 2nd place, which is Ben Mile.
One of the Austin 7s has gone off left there, luckily for number 1, which is Greg Ferguson. Didn't quite make the crop, something we've seen quite a lot here at Snetterton, but quite a sketchy moment on brakes there, turning left, basically, rather than right into the Wilson hairpin.
Saw Greg and Thruston roll that at Brands Hatch about 15 years ago, but yeah, that's all back onto the track. But here's the lead car, the Village V2. He built the V1 way back, and in the build-up to his Formula 4 days. Mile is 2nd, then it's that quick Austin 7 special. That's Tim Roebuck, isn't it? I think it's the John Miles car, built by John Miles, the Lotus Formula 1 racer. And that's a very, very quick machine. Yeah,
absolutely. And Tim drives it really well. He's won in the Austin 7 class. I think in all the races he's taken part in this year, he'd missed Cadwell Park last time out, as did John Village, who was at the British Grand Prix with the BRDC.
Yeah, spectating rather than competing.
But he seems to enjoy racing in this series. He had a little dabble in classic Formula Fords, but I think he prefers the style of racing you get in this category.
Yes, I think he got the Formula Ford bug out of his system way back when he was doing it and beating the best in Europe, as he did in 1979. But here is the Village V2 coming down. Had a spin this morning on the, I think, the penultimate lap practice just here at Brundle Corner.
I did that a couple of weeks ago when I had a go in a Mazda, which was rather exciting.
So you're sticking to commentary, are you?
Yeah, I think that's probably for the best. There's Ben Mile then in the Gerald. He's going well there in 2nd position. He's pulled a long way clear of the battle that's developing for 3rd position.
Sage is 3rd now, isn't he? Sage is 3rd, and then it's the race kit's Merlin. That's Ian Grant in 4th. That's the French blue car. And then Tim Roebuck with that quick supercharged Austin 7 special behind. Oh, and the brakes are locked there on Tim Sage's car. Well, he's been psyched out by John Village, who's come past with a big lead at the end of the first lap over Ben Mile.
He's 3.8 seconds ahead at the end of the first lap then, John Village to Ben Mile in number 12, then 42 Tim Sage is 3rd, who is running the Invitational class this weekend rather than Class C, as he has done previously in this Mallock U2 from 1964.
Yeah, he and John Village won a race each at Cadwell, which is the last one I saw, and that was exciting. And they had great battles at Brands Hatch prior to that, Josh.
Yeah, it's a shame sort of how the start went, really, didn't it? Because the race almost settled at the beginning. Having a look now at Tim Roebuck, who's now in 5th position in number 18 in that John Miles Austin 7 special. And like you say, Marcus, that car could really, really well in the hands of Tim.
Yeah, it seemed exceedingly intrepid to be battling with sort of modern builds like the race kit's Merlin there, because he's having to push it really, really hard everywhere, just to sort of keep him in sight. But he's doing a grand job.
I think he won this race overall last year when it was in the wet. That car seems to go particularly well in the wet conditions.
I suppose it's quite a lot heavier than some of the lightweight specials.
So he's there in 5th position behind Ian Grant, who has had a better result of 4th so far this season. He's finished there 3 times and he's 4th again. So
he previously raced an Austin 7, didn't he? And a lot of these early cars are powered by Reliant engines, but that's a modern take on the whole thing. And we'll see some of the earlier sort of DNCs and things down in the field.
Yeah, we've also got out this weekend, which is a new car on me, which is the Marrow, driven by John McDonald.
There were a couple of Marrows. Andy Jones was the Marrow king, and his car was actually painted dark green at one point with sort of pale flecks up it to resemble the large vegetable.
So that's number 44. I'm not sure if John McDonald's actually taken the start. So
he had a clutch problem this morning. His son, George McDonald, the eminent Formula Ford racer, he was tending it. And it was something to do with the release bearing, I think, had gone wrong.
Okay.
But it was first time out. They were going to do a test day, couldn't do that and used this one as a test, but broke it this morning.
I guess the problem with cars like this, doing a test day, you've got a lot of very quick cars, much bigger, heavy cars around you, which is probably quite scary.
That's right. And also, he said the cost of entering the 750 Motor Club meeting here was less than doing a test day. So, okay, it's broken, but they live and learn. Father used to race MGZR, I think, MGF, something like that.
So John Village has gone through. He's done a 2 minutes 34.3. He leads by 4 seconds over Ben Mile, but the fastest lap's gone to Tim Sage in the Mallow. He's done a 2:33.9, which is 4 tenths quicker than John Village. I think there would have been a good race between them had that start not gone the way it did.
He's got to work pretty hard over the remaining 9 minutes or so to negate that, doesn't he? But look at this. Tim Roebuck in 18 there is really threatening Ian Grant in the number 20, the race kits. Merlin, built down in Surrey.
We've got the interest of the handicap race come later on today, which is a type of race which fits this really well, and something that traditionally in club racing was a much more prominent feature than it is nowadays.
And will that be a multi-start handicap?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, they're always much more fun when everyone is supposed to finish at the same time but rarely does.
But it works well here though, because it's a nice long lap, so they can work it out a lot better than a shorter circuit, and you haven't got to worry about getting the marshals off the circuit again in such a hurry. We had that at Cadwell Park a few weeks ago, and sort of the whole field will be in half a minute at the end of the race, so it went pretty well.
That's pretty good.
I guess this race will probably be 6 laps, so it's sort of a nice round figure to work out from. Giles Grunbridge, the official handicapper this weekend.
Oh, is he?
So he's busy on multiple roles, but he's our handicapper. So he'll be watching this race and taking a look at the qualifying times as well and trying to work that out for later on.
It's a job that's always done brilliantly at the 6-hour relay, the Burkitt 6-hour relay at Silverstone. We have kind of 60 teams of up to about 6 compete. Quite amazing.
I think entry's open for that now, so if you're wanting to get involved in the Burkitt relay, now's probably a good time to enter because it usually gets full up.
Yeah, named for Holland Burkitt, who was one of the kind of the pioneers, one of the forefathers of the 750 Motor Club.
I think you're back with us this year for the Burkitt.
Oh, absolutely.
So looking forward to that at the end of the season, maybe not in the same conditions as we've got today. There's Ian Grant in number 20, he's turning his way up towards Coram, he's still there in 4th position, starting a bit of space between himself and Tim Roebuck. We haven't mentioned the standard Austin 7 yet, the Class A cars, the non-supercharged cars. It's Hugo Pickup who leads that in 69. He leads by about 1.5 seconds over Charlie Plain-Jones and Nick Hayward-Cook just a bit further behind, so we'll try and pick up those as well as this race goes on. The lead gaps are coming down though, because John Village was slower on that last lap than both Ben Mile and Tim Sage. So there's Village out of Ritchie's. He leads by 2.4 seconds over Ben Mile, but going on that last lap 3 seconds quicker than Village was Tim Sage in the Mallow. So it looks like we might have a battle for the lead after all. So in the 32s was Sage, in the 33s was Mile, and Village was in the 35s on that lap as we look at Tim Sage then in 42. He's a artist from Newport in Wales. He's been racing for 30 years. He started off in 500cc F3 cars, in sprinting. He's probably done more sprinting than circuit racing, but now in this 1964 Mallock U2, which is owned by Bill Pearce. So he's now pretty much caught up. Ben Mile there in 2nd place, Marcus.
Yeah, because the Mallocks were never called Mallocks at that point. They were just called U2s. They were developed by Major Arthur Mallock, who was a great 750 Motor Club racer and a fantastic character with a sort of a bristling moustache, and he took U2s racing internationally in Formula Junior and in Formula 2 on the continent back in the day. But he was based over near Silverstone and was a very, very clever, a boffin, a real boffin.
Because it sort of broke the trend where everybody else was going rear engine. Mallock stayed front engine, was still really quick cars.
For a long time, exactly. And they were quicker than Formula 3 cars at the time, a lot of the Mallocks. But the U2 name came from the adverts they put in the magazines. U2 can have a body like mine. It's not exactly aspirational in many cases, but there you go.
So they've just had to lap the Tom Emden Austin 7 Sportsman.
Oh, and John Village ran off over the curb just the edge there and kicked up a little bit of the dust, and that will sap his momentum. He's got a 750cc Coventry Climax 4-cylinder engine in that car, similar to the engines that Team Lotus used to win the class at the Le Mans 24-hour sports car race back in the day. There was a special class for low-powered cars, and they all aimed for the index of thermal efficiency, which was designed to benefit French cars with Panhard engines, and Lotus went there and thrapped them, which was not popular with the Automobile Club de l'Ouest.
2 laps to go as John Village comes across the line. He's suddenly gone a lot quicker. He's done a 2:32.7. Not quite as quick as Tim Sage, though, because he's into the 31s. 3.3 seconds separate them with a couple of laps to go. And they turn their way through Ritchie's corner then, with Village still ahead, but he is being caught, as we say, even though he has picked his pace up. And Mile and Sage behind in second and third positions as they turn their way through the right-hander at Wilson, named after Justin Wilson, who lost his life, I think, 7 years ago now, pretty much to the day. So we remember Justin here at Snetterton with that corner name now at what was previously known as Montreal. They're more traditionally known as Sear Corner here at Snetterton, a circuit that has changed so many times over the season, Mark. I'm not sure if you've driven this new version, but it seems to be quite popular with drivers.
I've driven this one kind of 4 or 5 years ago, I think, when it was sort of pretty much first around, and quite enjoyed it. But with this sort of car, it's all about momentum. It's quite difficult. I mean, the best lap of the race is a 2:31.72, but the record here is 2:29.44, I noticed, to Richard Pryor.
Tim Sage had a big spin. He got all crossed up and it then spat him the other way. That was at Oggy's, the double apex right-hander. And that is Tim Sage's chances of a win today gone. He's going to recover in that third position, but it showed you he was pushing on.
He was, and just stepped over the boundary of grip. But in fairness, Ben Miles not that far behind our race leader.
Mile has gone over 3 seconds quicker than he did in qualifying this morning.
Yeah.
You do tend to see that in this series. They tend to go quicker in the race, situation.
They don't tend to come out and test it. I reckon that John Village may not have quite the setup with having changed the carburetors from that single carb, which knocked his power down into the low, kind of about 50 horsepower. And I reckon that maybe it's not kind of behaving quite as well as he'd have liked.
Ben Mile had a second and a third at Brands Hatch this season as his best result. So like you say, he's really taking it to John Village. They're nose to tail now as they come out of Murray's, and we'll start the final lap of the race. And we're going to see a potential challenge, Sage, in the slipstream of John Village. Ben Mile in the slipstream of John Village, and they come across the line 4/10 of a second apart. Miles in the 31s now, so he's gone the best part of 4 seconds quicker than he did this morning. And
Village's best lap's the 32.76. So
he wasn't really able to do anything in the slipstream there, though, was he? Which was interesting. But he's certainly quicker through Ritchie's, coming down towards the hairpin. Village having to go defensive,
and you can see the Gerald behind is jiggling around under braking of Ben Mile. He's trying really hard. He's got to get this is an opportunity down the it's one of the longer straights, because he's clearly got an advantage.
Village a lot wider though. Don't they, with some fluid down at Palmer possibly, and they need to go either side of that.
But I think by being wider, he's maintaining more momentum at least.
No, and he's therefore got a big enough gap for the straights not to be under huge pressure for the corners. But there's so many overtaking opportunities here at Snetterton. It's it's not like some circuits where it has to be done at one corner, particularly in these cars. Yeah. Almost every corner is a possibility of an overtaking move. Not sure how much Ben Mile would have really raced against John Village, because
wheel to wheel, not very much, I suspect.
Exactly. So Ben will be relishing this opportunity, and he's much quicker into Oggy. He takes a wider line, and he's going to be right there through Williams. Such an important corner, especially in these cars, Marcus, with the long straight upcoming.
Yeah. It strikes me that the pickup of the lead car is not that strong, and out of the bomb hole, I noticed it looked a bit reticent to pull cleanly, and Ben Mile now in in the slipstream, if it gives a slipstream. It's a pretty minimalist car built around John Village. He's not the tallest guy in the world. But through Brundle they go, and it would appear that Village took a little more speed in, but he's got to hang on around here. A spinner there is 88, which is
Jerry Fincham,
isn't
who
it?
started from the back and has got to 6, so he had a good race up until that spin. But for the lead of the race, for the win, coming into the Coram for the final time, trying to carry more speed is Ben Marler around the outside. You don't normally see overtaking moves around the outside at Coram, and he may not be able to do this because John Village has held on into Murray's. Now the exit, super important, and it looks like John Village again is perhaps better on the initial acceleration. They've got a slower Austin 7 to navigate as well. They go to the left-hand side of that, and John Village is going to win again. The 6th victory of the season, but it was a hard-fought race for John. And he wins at the flag by 0.7 of a second. He needed to do his personal best lap on that lap, Marcus, to keep Ben Marler at bay.